Alright, so I got three stories here, three news stories. First of all, you have the authorities in Florida are apparently looking for Jeremiah Robinson and Brittany Jones. Now, you remember Brittany Jones put out a sex tape of her performing sex acts inside Duval County Courthouse in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, they've apparently identified the man who was in the video with her, who was receiving oral sex and etc. Now, so this man is Jeremiah Robinson. I think he's around 30-something years old. Brittany Jones is 26 years old. Now, there was some speculation that the man in the video was a court guard or a police officer or something. It turns out that according to the authorities, this guy Jeremiah Robinson was not an employee of the courthouse, and he may be the father of Brittany Jones's child. So he may be Brittany Jones' boyfriend. So anyway, so they have a warrant for these people's arrest for, was it unnatural sex or something? Some kind of sexual charges here. Now, if you remember a little while back, there was, I guess a few years ago, there was a couple who had sex in public on the beach, and they received a pretty harsh sentence, especially the man. He received a pretty harsh sentence. So I hope this is not the case in this particular instance, because these people, overall, what they did, it wasn't that serious. They were in an empty courthouse hallway. It's not like they were having sex in a kindergarten classroom or something with children around. And as far as it was basically, I guess, Brittany Jones, the stripper, she's going for the internet social media attention and stuff like that. But people do a lot of worse things for internet social media attention than having sex in an empty courthouse hallway. And of course, she's bringing a lot of happiness to a lot of men by without putting out all these videos of herself. So I don't think what she's doing is that bad. Much better than a lot of as far as her being in terms of social media attention seekers, she's one of the better ones in my opinion. Much better than a lot of these trolls that contribute nothing. At least she's providing jerk off material for a lot of men. So she's doing something positive for the community. I think that her charges should be reduced because of that, because she's doing for her community service. And let's see, number 2, there was a robbery at Nicki Minaj's house a little while ago, and Meek Mill, her ex-boyfriend, has been blamed for it. So Meek Mill and Nicki Minaj were dating each other for, I guess, up until maybe December, January, until recently. Then they broke up. Nicki Minaj is now some reports say she's gone back with Drake. So you have some relationship drama there. Then Nicki Minaj's house was burglarized, and allegedly $200,000 worth of property was stolen from it. And people on social media have been saying that Meek Mills was behind the robbery. I'm assuming if he was involved in the robbery, I'm assuming that he did not do it himself, but he had other people do it. Now, it's really hard to say whether Meek Mill was behind the robbery or not, because it's really speculation. I personally have no knowledge of this incident, and I'm sure most of the people on social media do not either. They're just making assumptions. Now, it is possible that Meek Mill did orchestrate the robbery in revenge for the breakup. It is also possible that some associates of Meek Mill basically felt they had a green light to go ahead and rob the house because him and Nicki Minaj had broken up. And it's also possible that Meek Mill had absolutely nothing to do with the robbery. Him and his associates had nothing to do with the burglary, because the thing is, there's a lot of burglaries for example, in California. There's been burglary rings that target rich houses, and this happens not just in California, but all over the place. In a lot of places, there's burglars who target wealthy neighborhoods, because that's where you get a lot of valuables, right? You get they allegedly took $200,000 worth of property from Nicki Minaj's house. That the rich people's houses are the places where you can find $200,000 worth of property. I don't I don't own $200,000 worth of property. So a lot of burglars will specialize in targeting rich, wealthy neighborhoods. Let's see. Number 3, Bobby Shmurda, Brooklyn rapper, who was arrested in 2014 along with a number of his associates from the GS9 crew, they were accused of various gang-related offenses, drugs, murder or attempted murder, shootings, conspiracy, etc. So it was a big case. A bunch of them got arrested. Apparently Bobby Shmurda has been moved to protective custody after another prisoner tried to stab him. So he was in a downstate correctional facility in Fishkill, New York, and apparently, from what I'm reading about downstate correctional facility, apparently that's a prison. It's a maximum security prison where people who come into the penitentiary system or the state penitentiary system, people there are classified. So they try to I guess that's where they decide which facility a prisoner is going to go to. So I guess maybe whether the prisoner is going to go to a maximum security, medium, minimum, or if they're going to this prison or that prison. So I would guess that I'm assuming that maybe they put all the prisoners, all the people so first people go to jail when they get arrested, and then some people, when a person gets sentenced to, if they get sentenced to a prison sentence, a longer prison sentence, I'm assuming that they will go, if they're in New York State, maybe they go to the downstate correctional facility first before they, and then they'll classify them and then put them to, or send them to whichever prison they decide to send them to. Now, so that if that's the case, then that would mean that downstate correctional facility, downstate prison would be like Rikers Island. There'd be like some of the jails, the local jails, where in terms of because in the jails they just put everybody together. They'll put a murderer in there with a jaywalker, somebody arrested for disorderly conduct. Any charge goes to the same jail. And I think in a prison where they classify people, they'll probably send anyone sentenced to given a prison sentence. So whether it could be a non-violent prisoner, they could be triple murder with a very violent record. They'll just put everyone in there together. Most likely, this is what I'm assuming. I'm assuming they put everyone in there. So anyway, so Bobby Shmurda was in there. Probably a lot of his GS9 people were in there as well, because so Bobby Shmurda and a lot of the other GS9 members, people took plea bargains and took a 7-year deal. I think at least one of them refused to take a deal, and then he got convicted and sentenced to I think 117 years to 100 and 200 years or something. I can't remember, but anyway, so Bobby Shmurda, he was in this downstate correctional facility. Apparently another prisoner tried to stab him, and then they decided to move him to protective custody, to Clinton Correctional Facility and protective custody. Now, Clinton Correctional Facility seems to be a place where they put a lot of high-profile prisoners. The prisoners who have been in there include Michael Alig, who was a gay party guy who killed and dismembered a Colombian drug dealer. I saw a documentary about him. Then you had Robert Chambers, who was another high-profile killer. He was called the Preppy Killer. I think he was some rich kid, or he went to a school for rich kids and killed a girl there or something. You had Hell Rell from the Diplomats, Tupac, Shine, Old Dirty Bastard. They were all inside in Clinton Correctional Facility. You had Lucky Luciano, the mafia guy from the 20th century. Vincent Johnson, the Brooklyn Strangler, a serial killer. You had so there's a lot of high profile prisoners in there. So Clinton Correctional Facility may be a place where they put a lot of prisoners who they feel may be in danger, so they'll put them in Clinton Correctional Facility, and they may have a lot of protective custody there. I don't know. But see, a lot of people say that a lot of prisoners, or a lot of people, prison people, or people who've been in prison will say that prisoners should never take protective custody. For example, Lakey the Kid, who was a rapper from Queensbridge, he was arrested at a young age for, I think it was shooting somebody at a young age. He was from Queensbridge, grew up around Nas and some of the other rappers from that neighborhood. And so he went to prison, spent a lot of time in prison, came out, he rapped a little bit. I think he had an album. He was on guest spots with Nas. I think he did an album with Cormega. So anyway, there's a video of him on YouTube where he's talking about how prisoners should never accept PC, protective custody. He was talking about Prodigy, the rapper, taking protective custody. He was saying that other high-profile rappers like Black Rob weren't in protective custody, so why should Prodigy take protective custody? And he was saying that the only way a prisoner should accept protective custody is if they get beat up by the cops and dragged into protective custody. So now Bobby Shmurda. And prisoners, if somebody goes to protective custody, other prisoners will, they look down on that, and they'll think, oh, this person's a snitch, or this and that. So they don't. PC prisoners are looked down on. And Bobby Shmurda. Now, see, the thing is, a lot of rappers are not real gangsters. Okay, they're not. A lot of them just aren't real gangsters. So at the end of the day, these people, they're not really equipped to be in general population in the prison. Okay, like some of these guys, so whereas, see, Black Rob was someone who was always in prison. He was from what I understand, he spent a lot of his life in prison before he had that hit track Whoa, before he was signed and before he became a big rapper. So for him to go back to prison, it wasn't that big of a deal. But a lot of these rappers, they've never been in prison. They're not real gangsters. However, now Bobby Shmurda was arrested on a gang case. So his crew was allegedly involved in this big street gang that was shooting people, selling drugs, shooting their rivals, selling drugs, etc., etc. And even in the song, his big song, Bobby Shmurda's big song, he was talking about shooting people and all this stuff. And his crew was allegedly really doing all that. So I think that the crew, the Bobby Shmurda and the crew, they should have been, he shouldn't have had to go to protective custody, because if he had a crew, if his gang are killers and all this stuff, and they're shooting people on the street, they should have handled their business in the prison as well. But anyway, really, at the end of the day, that's his problem.